There's something about returning home each year that gives one a sense of warmth and belonging. A serene place, somewhat isolated and rich in culture. On this far region on Newfoundland's west coast, on the very tip of the Port-au-Port Peninsula, we find a very distinct and proud French-speaking population. First established by French fishermen during the mid-1800s, the majority of its residents today can still trace their ancestral roots back to Europe. Standing and looking west from the end of the community of Cape St. George and south from that of mainland, we see Red Island. Once considered Europe's main fishing installation on what was then La Côte Française, the island today stands as a nostalgic reminder of a once vibrant and turbulent past. At its peak, Red Island was home to well over 100 young French fishermen. As in most class societies, the merchants and sailors were sheltered in wooden houses constructed above the island, whereas les graviers, those who were responsible with the cleaning and drying of the daily catch, were harbored in makeshift shacks near the ocean's edge. The majority of these fish processors all originated from Normandie Basse, La Bretagne, and Poitou-Charentes in France. Each year, they sailed across the Atlantic Ocean around the month of May, docked and stayed on Red Island during the summer months, and then returned home again in late October. The working conditions were particularly more harsh for les graviers, spending most of their time processing fish, knee-high in dead remains, without any real medicines. They were always susceptible to disease and amputations brought on by infections. Around the mid-1800s, a brave few decided to desert the fishery and made their way to the beach at mainland. From there, they made their way into the nearby forest and hid until their comrades had returned home. Alone, and barely able to sustain themselves during the first few winters, they began to assimilate themselves within the local immigrating families. Such were the Acadians, the English, and the local Mi'kmaq Indians, who had come by way of Sandy Point in Bay St. George. By the turn of the 20th century, the French communities of Desgras, Cap Saint-Georges, L'Anse-à-Canard, Maison d'Hiver, and La Grande-Terre were established. By the mid-20th century, the communities began to experience assimilation. With the advent of the newly developed American military base in the near town of Stephenville, the French population began to dwindle as more and more of them were being assimilated into the vast English population of the rest of the province. With the aid of the provincial government, community leaders began developing Francophone associations. These well-organized institutions allowed them to focus on the expansion and the preservation of their French culture and heritage. For the Francophone population of Canada, 2004 marks the 400th anniversary of their presence in the country. Among the great number of activities held yearly throughout each community on the Port-au-Port Peninsula, it's the traditional festivals which allow visitors the opportunity to sample the rich French culture. To commemorate this occasion, the three local Francophone communities have organized a dinner theater and a French folk festival. For the first time this year, the festival committee have underlined the importance of theater. Along with developing their own, they have extended the invitation to parties outside the communities to showcase their works during their events. The first to accept the invitation was a group from Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, who presented Un Noël pour les Mi'kmaq. This play allowed the audience to perceive the tensions between the French and the local Mi'kmaq tribes around the province of Newfoundland around the 18th century. The Stephenville Festival Group presented Vive la Rose, l'histoire d'Émile Benoit, and depicted the life of the late musician and storyteller of Black Duck Brook. Finally, Les Chroniques de l'Île Rouge, directed and starring local actor Michael Fenwick, presented in vignettes the history and the importance of Bread Island to the Francophone communities. The scenes were accompanied by the music of Ti-Garçon and traditional dances interpreted by Mandy Jesso and the youth dancers of Mainland. Now here are highlights of Festival 2004.